Hi everyone, it's been a long time. Howdy. I'm back to do another book review. I haven't really been reading much recently mainly because I haven't been commuting to work, as in on the tube. I drive in where I'm working currently, so I don't really have time to read on the way to work, and then when I get home I don't want to look at any books, so I don't really read that much anymore. However, one of the books I've read most recently, I did finish reading it about 2 months ago, is this book 12 Tribes of Hattie, just here, by Ayana Mathis, this lady. And I picked it up in a Waterstones, I was going to say Weatherspoons, they're two totally different shops. In a Waterstones I picked it up, and then the lady at the till was like, oh, I really like this book, oh, you should read, I think it's The Secret Life of Bees, she recommended it. I haven't got around to reading it yet. But this book, I bought it and I started reading it around December time, and the first chapter, I'll go over a vague synopsis, but the first chapter was just really harrowing. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And then the rest of the book gets less harrowing, but it's still quite heavy subjects. So basically the premise, or the main synopsis of the book, is a lady called Hattie, this lady here, and she doesn't have, I can't remember how many children she has altogether, but like it's about her kids going through different periods of time. So I think it's first set in the 50s. Let me see. No, in 1925. 1925 is the first chapter, and then each chapter focuses on her kids, and because she's had them quite spread out and there's about 10 of them, there's different years associated with each child or children. So the first chapter is about her firstborn twins. They're called Jubilee and Philadelphia. So you find about early on in her life. I think she was married age 17 to August, her husband, and she has twins, and it just goes through that. And then the second chapter is called Floyd, about her second son. He's a musician, a touring musician in 1948, and what he has to go through. And that chapter's quite interesting, actually. They're all quite interesting. And then the third chapter is called 6, after her third son, in 1950, Ruthie in 1951, who is kind of still, it's her child but with another man from her husband, but her current husband kind of thought that it was his child, but then she tried to run away with this other guy called Lawrence, and it all gets very complicated. But she comes back, and then Alice is the chapter. Sorry, I missed a chapter. Chapter 5 is Ella, and it was her last child that she had later on in life, and she's really quite not upset, but she can't cope with having all these children. So her sister, one of her older sisters, kind of convinces her to, or tries to convince her to give up her youngest child and give it to her sister. And the sister's like really forceful. She's got a lot of money, but she's not very happy with her in her relationship, and she thinks that a child will make her life better. So that's the Ella chapter, and then it goes kind of back to some other children that she's had. So focuses on Alice and Bill, but they call Bill Billups, which I don't understand. And there's a very interesting story in there about abuse, and it's very interesting, that one. And it goes back to some of my other children like Franklin, Belle, Cassie, and then Cassie's kind of a troubled daughter who has another daughter. So the last chapter is based on, or it's called Stella, and I think that's the last, it's actually Hattie's grandchild called Stella, who is Cassie's daughter, and it talks about kind of their story together, and it kind of ties up everything, so from the first chapter to the end. In general, I thought it was quite an interesting book, focusing on different characters for each chapter, which is good. I like that. It could get a little bit confusing, so I think it was chapter 2 where they didn't really develop the character. So for each chapter they would develop a character, you get to know them, you start to feel part of them, and then they would just drop them. they never went back to talk about the issues that they kind of came out in those chapters. So, for example, chapter 6 with Alice and Billups, or Billy, or whatever his name was, and there was a bit of abuse, story of abuse and a background of abuse. It kind of touched on it and then just left it. Chapter 2 is about a musician, so the second son after the twins. The twins died, by the way, in the first chapter. I'm sorry if I've just given that away. Oops. But anyway, chapter 2 talks about her second son, Floyd, who goes off and he's a musician. And he kind of is there's a bit of homosexuality in there. So he's kind of like experimenting. But again, as soon as that chapter finishes, it doesn't really mention him again. It does a little bit, but it's very fleeting mentions. So my only issue really is with this book is that the characterization she does to a point and then just drops them, and then you never hear about them again. So it would have probably been nice to have one more chapter at the end that ties everybody's stories up a little bit more. I know that she used the chapter 10 seller to try and do that, but you never really find out what happened to other kids and where they are now and what's everyone doing. Maybe that she probably obviously wanted it to be like that, but for me it was a little bit I felt that she abandoned the characters a little bit. So, but all in all, I'd probably give it out of 10. I don't know, it was quite entertaining, kept me occupied for a while, so maybe 6, 7. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't a I can't put this book down type of read, but it was kind of I quite like to read it, and I'd like to know what happens next, but more at a leisurely pace. I wasn't like really into reading it like some other books I've read, but in general, as a good kind of story that you can sink your teeth into, it was good, quite good, above average. So Ayana Mathis is her picture in this book, this lady, Ayana Mathis here. Well done. I don't think it's her first book, I'm not sure. But yeah, I probably read other books by her. So that's the end of I think it's my 3rd book review now. If you'd like me to read or review any more books, please comment in the comment box, and I will be pleased to do reviews on whatever books that you want to read or haven't had the chance to read. And feel free to comment and like and subscribe, whatever you need to do. Thank you, and you'll probably get another one in the near future. I haven't decided what book yet because I haven't read any for a little while. So I will get back to you on that. But give me any recommendations you have. Anyway, thanks. Bye.